Hi guys, and welcome back to today's podcast. My name's Samantha Hurst and you're listening to the Rich Life Diaries. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you what they don't tell you about starting a business. Welcome to Rich Life Diaries, the podcast where we talk real strategies for creating abundance, building a business you love, and designing a life that actually feels good. If you're done playing small and ready to create your dream life, you're in the right place. Okay, so starting a business is not for the faint-hearted. And at the start, like anything, it's the hardest. You know, when you start anything, like let's say you've started you're starting golf or something, you're starting a hobby, you're going to be shit at it. Like that's just normal. People just expect that starting a business is no different to starting anything else. They just think, oh no, if I start the business, it should give me this much money. And if it doesn't pay me this by that, well, I'm just going to throw the towel in and it's not working. And no, look at it as like a sport. Do you think athletes just jump in and start doing a sport and then, after 6 months of doing it, they go, oh, I think I'm a bit shit at this, I'm not going to do it. No, they push through, they learn their lessons, they fall over, they fuck up, they make mistakes, they do all the things and they keep going. This is the biggest thing with starting a business. It's not for the faint-hearted because you are in a learning phase for probably the first year or two. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up. You're probably going to blow money on something and it's not going to give you a return. All of that stuff is normal. And, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners talk about failure. And, there's that saying, fail forward and fail fast. And don't take the failure as, it's over. Take the failure as like a bruise or it's a little knockdown. Get up, keep going. And in my experience, the business owners that do well are the ones that understand that. They've got the grit and persistence. And that's the number one trait I see in super successful people is that grit and persistence. The ability to get back up after a hit and keep going. Because if you're someone to throw the towel in too soon, you're never going to be good at anything, whether that's running a business or learning to play golf or whatever. Practice makes perfect, and starting a business is no different. So I think that's one of the biggest things that people disassociate starting a business like starting anything else. There's this weird mindset, and I see that all the time in my own business, that there's these expectations that they're just going to walk in and the business is going to make them instant money and it's just all going to be easy. And it's not. You're learning something new. It's like anything. You're going to go through the first few months where you're going to feel all the feels and feel overwhelmed and feel like, oh my God, what have I done? And then it's like a roller coaster. I say this to people all the time. It's literally, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. It's like you go through these periods where it's like you start making sales at the start of the business and you're like, yay, this is so much fun. Look at what I'm doing. And then, you'll have a week where you won't make any sales and then you start freaking out going, oh my God, I think I made a mistake. This isn't working, I haven't made any sales in a week or two. And then, the roller coaster goes back up and then you have another win and then it goes back down. And you need to be okay with that. You need to be good on roller coasters if you want to start a business, because if you're not, you're going to be one of those people, and I've seen them in my own business, they throw the towel in too soon. They don't have the grit or the persistence and they just go too hard, chuck the towel in, walk away. That's one of the biggest things people don't talk about. And that's the truth about getting into business. That's going to happen. You're going to have ups and downs and you're going to fail. That's just facts. Another thing is, you're going to do a lot of work at the start. So you are going to be working maybe at 80 hours a week. I don't know, depending on your business. But at the start of any business, you're going to probably be putting a lot more time into it than what you do versus, 5 years into a business. So the start is always the hardest. Yeah, and it's the time when you do put more time in. I know when I started ClickStart Digital, I probably was working 80 hours a week in the first couple of years. And then once I started, making more money, I then started hiring people. That's the thing. When you start a business, you are everything. You wear all the hats in that business because you can't afford to hire staff. So, I wore every hat. I was doing everything in the business. I didn't have any team or staff. It was just me on my own for the first year or two. And then as the business started making more money and profits, then I started hiring people. And then once you start hiring people, then you can really scale your business. So that's obviously their goal. The end goal is to get to that point so you can start sort of hiring staff, because once you can hire staff, that's when you can scale the shit out of your business and make more money, basically, which is kind of what we all want to do, right? So that's another thing people don't tell you about, starting a business is, you do need to hire staff at some point. You can't continue to wear every hat and grow the business. It just won't work. And when you're working those 80 hours in your own business, it genuinely doesn't feel like work anyway. I can't explain it. Like for me personally, like when I do work those hours in my own business, and like I work those hours now sometimes, not often, but every now and then stuff will happen. And then I'll be working a lot of hours in my own business for a little bit of time. And it doesn't feel like work though to me, because it's for me, it's my business and it's my passion and I'm excited about it. And those 80 hours don't feel like the 80 hours that maybe, I used to do for a corporate company that I didn't give a shit about. So that's another thing that people don't tell you. You will be working more hours in the start, but it won't feel like work, because when it's your own business, it just feels better when you're making the money for yourself versus someone else. So if you're one of those people that you're stuck in that grind right now where you're wearing every hat in your business and you're trying to scale the business and you can't maybe afford to hire any staff, but you want to get to that scaling point, but you just don't have the cash right now to pay for team and staff, that's okay. We're living in the world of AI, people. Like you can get AI agents to do a lot of the work and it doesn't really cost that much. There's so many tools out there now, AI tools that offer customer service, sales, marketing, social media, all of those things can be done by AI. So if you don't have the cash right now to pay for staff, use AI where you can to help outsource some of the parts of your business to, an AI agent or whatever. And I'm a massive, I'm a queen of automation. So I always have been. I'm all about taking shortcuts if I can. I don't want to walk the long way. I want to walk the short way. I want to get to the same destination, but I don't want to have to go all the way, that way when there's a shortcut. So I've always been that way. So I've pretty much set my business up to be as automated as possible. And there's amazing tools like Zapier or Make that plug in different software tools and automate processes and all the things. It just makes life simple. And if you're not sure how to automate your business, put it in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT. I'm sure ChatGPT will give you some hot tips on how to automate your business or how to use AI to sort of automate things where possible. So, you can still try to scale without having to drop a heap of cash on paying staff and things like that. And another thing, just touching on the staff thing, is I've always liked to hire contractors. I've always used a website called upwork.com and I still do now. I don't want to hire full-time employees. They're a pain in the ass. Go and talk to any business owner that has 50 staff, like full-time staff. And every business owner I've met, they all bitch about the same thing, and it's about staff. Now, I know I'm just contradicting myself by saying, you need staff to scale. You do, but you can hire contractors instead. In my experience, they're better, they're cheaper, and easier. If someone doesn't perform, you can get rid of them tomorrow. Easy. You can find millions of contractors on Upwork or one of those contractor websites. And that's how I've pretty much found most of my team, is either through Upwork or, occasionally I'll put ads on Seek and things like that. So yeah, I'd highly recommend looking at finding contractors and even finding staff offshore if you can't afford to pay employees here in Australia or you can't afford to hire someone here. Hire people from the Philippines. You can find someone really good in the Philippines for, $1,500 a month to do a lot of the stuff in your business. So a lot of business owners that I know are doing that. Some of them have a whole team of people based in the Philippines. So that's another alternative. If you don't have a lot of cash right now, or you're not making a lot of profit, but you still know that you need to have some staff and some help, look at the Philippines, Upwork, and using AI within your business to help you outsource all of that. Now, another thing people don't talk about is, what do you do about competition? This is an interesting one because I really believe, you've got to be aware of your competitors and you need to be watching what they're doing and you need to be doing something better or differently. And, this is another fear that I see from a lot of new business owners when they go, oh, I've got so much competition, and it almost just derails them and demotivates them. And I get that because comparison is the thief of joy. You don't want to be comparing yourself to other people, but you do need to be aware of what your competition are doing so you can make sure that you're competitive or you're doing something a bit different, or that your pricing's right or whatever. But every business out there has at least one competitor. It's just the world that we live in. You're going to have competitors, and there's nothing wrong with that. All that does is it just shows you what's possible for your own business. So use the competition to your advantage. Even when I started the lingerie business a long time ago, I had 4 competitors back then doing the same sort of niche. Like, it was a very niche lingerie business. I was just focused on larger cup sizes and things like that. But I had 4 other competitors. But that didn't stop me from jumping in and doing it. I just looked at what they were doing. I was like, okay, yep, I think I can come in from a different angle and do, my business a little bit differently in these ways. And I just had different points of difference. At the end of the day, there's 25 million people that live in Australia. This whole scarcity mindset is just bullshit. Don't let that derail you or stop you from growing your business or starting a business, because competition's a good thing. It just shows that there's a market for what it is that you're wanting to sell. And as I said, there's 25 million people in Australia. There's more than enough to go around. And you need to change your mindset and go from that, scarcity mindset to that abundance mindset of like, it's okay. Like, there's more than enough to go around. My competitors can make lots of money, and so can I. And that's all good. But that's something that a lot of business owners struggle with is, as I said, that comparison to their competition. So my recommendation is, try not to, look at your competition too much. And, know that you have a point of difference is you as a business owner, and use that to your advantage, and use the lessons from your competitors to your advantage as well, and do something differently. And leading on from that, I want to really talk about mindset, because I know this word, some people might go, "Ugh, mindset, like, that's a bit like woo-woo or airy-fairy or whatever." I don't know. I know everyone's got a different opinion on mindset, but I am a strong believer, and this is something I have seen. I'm around successful business owners and entrepreneurs all the time. I'm in lots of entrepreneur groups, and all the successful people, they understand the power of this. They just do. Whether they have it naturally in them, or they've learnt it by reading books or listening to podcasts or whatever. They understand that your mindset is everything. And I see this all the time. Negative mindset people they're miserable. They don't have anything in their life that they want because they've got a shitty mindset, because they believe that they don't deserve it, or they look at people that have things with jealousy or envy. They're always looking at the glass as half empty versus half full. They don't have that learning mindset or that growth mindset where it's like, I know I need to grow and be a better person. And that's another thing, my business grew when I started growing as a person. When I started doing more work on myself and my mindset, that's when my business took off as well. And this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, or don't maybe even realize this is really an important part of being a successful business owner, or becoming a successful business owner, is your mindset, your brain. It's your computer. It controls everything. If you've got shitty thoughts going on in your computer, well, what do you think the outcome is going to be? Shit. So you need to, if you don't have a positive mindset, that's okay. You just need to get one, and you can get one. You can reprogram your brain like you can reprogram a computer. You just need to do the work. You need to read books, listen to podcasts, go to workshops and courses. I don't know, do a Tony Robbins course. There's so much stuff out there that can help people move from that negative mindset to positive mindset. But that is a really, really crucial thing that I've seen in successful people, including myself. When I start falling into that, negative mindset, it feels like everything around me isn't working. And then, when I snap myself out of it and give myself an uppercut and go, right, do the work, do my meditations, do my affirmations, do my breath work, do the things that get my brain back into that positive mindset, things start shifting. This is just something that I feel like people don't talk about, and it's a really important part of being a business owner or being a success at something, is managing your mindset and making sure that you're ideally, always thinking positive thoughts versus lots of negative thoughts. So to recap on what I've shared today, you are going to work a lot of hours when you're starting out in any business. So you need to be okay with that. You're also going to fail, and that's okay. We're human. We all fail. You need to be okay with failing and getting back up and keep going. And of course, mindset is the third thing. So you really need to do the work on your mindset. You need to have a growth mindset, and you need to constantly read books and do things to improve your mindset, because that is going to be the thing that will control the outcome of your business. So guys, that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you back here in a couple of weeks. See ya.